So when we first started learning about systems of equations, you'll remember I told you there were three different ways to solve them. We've only gone over two so far, which would be graphing and substitution. Today I made a video for you guys about elimination. Elimination's a little bit different, and you might like it, you might not. At the end, it's kind of up to you how you solve it, but I need to make sure that you see all ways. So let's start here. So here are our two linear equations. We have 5x minus 2y equals 11 and negative 3x plus 2y equals 19. The reason elimination is useful is every once in a while you'll end up with a problem like this, where if I try to isolate a variable, I'm going to end up with fractions in front of one of my variables, and one of my constants will also be a fraction. And let's be honest, guys, none of us really like fractions, and it makes the math harder. So what you can do is, if you'll notice right here, those are the same, basically. One's a negative, one's a positive. So what you can do is you can take the entire system right there, and you can add it and subtract it. So here's what I mean. So I'm going to put a line down here, just like you guys are used to seeing in a regular problem. And we're actually going to add these two functions. Now, the reason I'm going to add them is because I have a negative and a positive. So a negative 2y plus 2y is 0y. These two cancel each other out. It's actually gone. And so what you're left with is just your x's and just your constants. So positive 5 plus negative 3 is 2x equals 11 plus 19 is 30. Divide by 2, and x equals 15. Now, if you guys remember, over the past week, we've been using substitution, and doing something like that would have taken up a good chunk of your paper. You'll notice that didn't take much up at all. So now that I know what the x is, I need to go plug that x back in to one of these equations to figure out what the y is. I'm going to use this one because it actually is a little bit easier, because instead of multiplying by 5 times 15, I'll multiply by 3. And I just think that that is a little bit less math for me. Okay, so you end up with negative 3 times 15, because we know that x equals 15, plus 2y equals 19. Okay, negative 3 times 15 is negative 45, plus 2y equals 19. We're going to add 45 to both sides. Oops. And we'll end up with 2y equals 64. And to get y by itself, we're going to divide by 2. Do it to both sides. And y is going to end up equaling 32. So your final answer is 1532 is the point that these two would cross. Now this was really easy, as you'll notice, because this was already nice and laid up perfect for you. But what if you end up with something that looks like this, and not everything is quite so perfect? So there's something really easy that you can do. So if you'll notice, everything's kind of mixed up. So I'm going to put it in a different order, so that way everything lines up. Otherwise, when you start to solve, it'll be a little confusing. So obviously the whole thing's going to equal 20, and then 9x plus 6y is the same thing as 6y plus 9x. Okay, so done with all this over here. I'm going to look right here. Nothing is exactly the same, but if you'll notice, you have a 3y and a 6y. Those are pretty close to each other. And if you multiply 3 by 2, you end up with 6. So what you're going to do is you're going to multiply everything by 2. The entire function has to be multiplied by 2. And you end up with 6y plus 4x equals 10. Same function, all you did was multiply it by 2, and right here, now you can eliminate these. So instead of adding this time, we're going to subtract, because they're both positives. So a 6y minus another 6y cancels out, it's gone. Then you have 9x minus 4x, which is 5x, equals 20 minus 10, which is 10. And divide by 5. divide by 5, and I end up with x equals 2. I'm going to take this nice little x equals 2, and I'm actually going to plug it back in up here. Yes, it's an original linear function that we used, and yeah, we changed it, but you can still use it to plug it in. It's the easiest one. So 3y plus 2 times 2 equals 5. 3y plus 4 equals 5. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. 3y equals 1. And now you'll see that, oops, sorry guys, we're about to end up with a fraction. Divide by 3, and you end up with y equals 1/3. This would not have been much fun to do if you had been trying to graph it or using substitution. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how to use elimination to solve functions. I'm going to ask you guys to continue working on your slides. If you did not understand this, please raise your hand and ask any questions to me or the people around you. All right, guys, thanks.